Hey everybody, this is Christopher Smith. This is my FibLines quarterly update for June 25th, 2016. This video will last less than 15 minutes, and here's our standard disclaimer regarding trading products. Don't trade with money you can't afford to lose. You know the story. Okay, agenda for the presentation, quick introduction, talk about what's new, review of the markets, review of some of the previous symbols I've commented on, and what's next. So basically I have two indicators I'm offering. One is called range bands. It's a universal trend following indicator. The other one is called FibLines. It's a support and resistance indicator. And real quickly on the range bands, go over here to a chart, and we do just load the basic thick swim chart. You'll see something like QQQ. Without the range bands added to it. We go studies, load study set, range bands, and you can see it paints the bars blue for uptrend, green for neutral, or red for downtrend. Okay, the other indicator I have is called FibLines, and that is a support and resistance indicator that draws horizontal lines on the chart at likely areas of support and resistance. I like to use the FibLines and the range bands together as an indicator because they complement each other nicely. The range bands do a good job of identifying a trend, and the FibLines do a good job identifying support and resistance levels. So I'll talk about where to get those indicators at the end of the presentation. So taking a look at the general markets, let's take a look at SPY first. We know we had that big sell-off in the early part of the year, straight down. Then we had a nice bounce off the bottom, rally back up to resistance here on the SPY. Kind of wavered again, went back down, went a little bit higher at that point, kind of challenged this 261 line here. But came in somewhat short of an all-time high just very recently, this past week or so. But then once again turned to the downside here with this move with the British exit of the European Union. So the FibLines haven't been particularly good on the SPY, although they have identified this area of 209 as a long-term area of resistance that held fairly well. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, the QQQ, and NASDAQ 100. Here's a chart that has really had some spectacularly good calls on FibLines in the past. This low, this high I should mention, this low, this high over here, which was the highest high we've seen in a long time, had really had some spectacular calls. Not so much recently with the FibLines on the Qs, but clearly based on the range bands, we're in the downtrend, and we've taken out this most recent low here. So we have some further work to do to the downside, I think it's safe to say, in the Qs. Okay, going back to some other symbols that I've posted on my blog. I have this website here, fibtools.blogspot.com, where I go through some observations on the market in terms of my indicators. I'll scroll down here at the bottom, and you can see some of the posts I've made since my recent quarterly update. And the FibLines, I should say, do change over time, so that's why I release an update once per quarter. First one, let's take a look at Coca-Cola. I posted back here on April 5th that it looked like we were at resistance. This is the kind of thing you can see with FibLines that you can't quite see with any other indicator. So why did I think we're at resistance here? Well, it turns out we're right here at this red line. And if you go to Coca-Cola, you can see, yeah, very interestingly, we're right there at resistance. And the only reason why I knew that is because of this red line here. And if you don't know how the indicator is constructed, just zooming back quickly, it has to do with Elliott wave analysis, and that identified this initial measured move, and that the rest of the FibLine sequence are Fibonacci extensions of that initial measured move. That has to be done by hand for each symbol. So that's Coca-Cola. Next up, we have UNH, United Health. I reinterpreted this one. It had previously exceeded the 423% line to the upside, so I reinterpreted that at a larger time frame. And we can see now that my Elliott wave one started over here in 2008 at the lows and made a high over here in 2011. And since then, we had some resistance here at the 161 line, at the 261 line. And now we have some further upside action, I think, in UNH. And you can see that it didn't fare quite as badly as some of the other symbols after this carnage that we saw on Friday. So I think UNH is positive. I think we have some further upside to go in that. Okay, next we have SPY, I think we talked about already. That was the resistance off the 261 line here, that first resistance that we saw. I had a later post on that one. We had a sort of a double down signal. We had both deflection off the 261 line once again, along with the range bands going red. And that sell-off really didn't last all that long. This is one feature I should say, by the way, of the FibLines indicator on Thinkorswim. It has the option of drawing these arrows when you get a 3-bar reversal off of a FibLine. Okay, next up we have Facebook. Facebook's one of my favorites. It hasn't done all that well lately, I should say. After earnings, we had a good rally to the upside. Let me go auto zoom. And we didn't get the sell-off that we usually get after rally. So here we had a big gap up on earnings. Big sell-off, filled the gap, eventually moved much higher. Gap up after earnings. Didn't get the sell-off immediately like we got the other times, but again, we have moved back down, and we've filled that gap there, and range bands clearly on the downside here. So this is the story of Facebook. It has long periods of pain, followed by big gaps up, followed by long periods of pain. We're in that period of pain right now. I'm still long Facebook stock. Not doing particularly well with it, but I like the company, I like the prospects, and they really are world-changing company, so I'm sticking with it. Gilead, another symbol that's had a very rough time of it recently. I pointed out the fact that we had a 100% line over here that was excellent support in the past. We rallied all the way back up here, got deflected off this orange line, went negative once again, found support once again, started to work to the upside, and once again gotten slammed to the downside here. We've actually taken out the lowest low of these previous two bottoms, so it looks like there's further pain ahead for Gilead, and that's also similar to some of the other biotechs. Regeneron having a very rough time of it, also taking out a low here. Another one was Biogen IDIC, BIIB, also in a world of hurt here, as is the IBB biotech index, which I've reinterpreted to the downside here, counting this as the initial measured move. We were kind of working in a channel here. We were coming up against some support here, I think, at least in terms of the index. But it's been rough for the biotechs. There's no sugarcoating it. Okay, that's Gilead. The last one, Dish, I made a fairly good call. Let's take a look at that one. Dish Networks, it's been sort of kind of moving upward in a channel here. Let's take a look at that. Dish. Okay, I made the post somewhere right about here. We had a nice rally up. Sort of did a reversal off of this red line, though it took a few bars to play out. And looks like now we're down. We're in a short-term downtrend here, but we have some support underneath. So Dish is Dish. The last one was Amazon. Amazon's really been one of the great success stories of the stock market and business in general. And this is a good illustration of how FibLines work. So let's just zoom back a little bit. And you can see that I interpreted the initial wave one as this move here. Kind of difficult to see on the weekly. Let's go to the daily. And we can see we had an area of support. Oops. Where am I? Have I lost my chart? No, I don't want to stop. Just want to pause. Okay, regained my footing here. This is where I identified the Elliott wave one. We had an area of support and an area of resistance. So I considered this to be the initial measured move. And then from that, we saw some resistance at the 161 line. And quick resistance at the 261 line following this big gap. And very recently, we came right up against the 423% line here, right at $730. And almost miraculously, that's where we found resistance, and that's the level we need to take out here. So it's an example of the kind of things that you can see with this indicator that just aren't possible through other more conventional technical indicators. It's not perfect by any means. I can't tell you it works all the time, but it definitely allows you to have some insights that you would not get without it. Okay, so I think that's the extent of my updates in terms of specific symbols. We talked about Amazon, Texas Instruments. I identified also here recently TXN. And we had some resistance there. We blew through and we came back down and have gone red on the range bands once again. So that's my symbol review. A couple other updates for you. Taking a look at the TradeStation App Store. Both the products, both range bands and FibLines, are now available on the TradeStation Trading App Store. And if you click on that, I uploaded the range bands to the Trading App Store less than 3 months ago. And you can see now it's one of the top 4 popular strategies as well as indicators. So it's both an indicator and a trading system. And for more information on the range bands, you can find that. Look at my video that I posted last week, range bands for TradeStation. So both the range bands and the FibLines are now available on the TradeStation Trading App Store. And I'm pretty proud of the fact that I think I booted out Ichimoku as one of the top 4 indicators, which is a good indicator, but it has a lot of different lines. And a range band is much simpler in that it gives you a simple red below trend indication. Okay, other updates. Okay, so we reviewed the symbols, we've reviewed previous posts. Future developments. What I'd like to do is come up with some kind of a dashboard for range bands for TradeStation and Thinkorswim. One that would show several time frames, say a 5-minute, 39-minute, 78-minute, daily, weekly, monthly, all on a single screen to show you for any given symbol how the stock is in terms of range bands. So kind of a multi-time frame analysis there. I'd like to do the same thing for both TradeStation and Thinkorswim. Also like to introduce scans for TradeStation and Thinkorswim so that you can scan symbols and find 2-bar reversals where you have 2 consecutive red or blue bars. I pointed out on the TradeStation Trading App Store that when looking for trend changes, it's probably best to wait for 2 consecutive red or blue bars. So, give an example here. Amazon went blue here and then went red almost immediately once again. So it's good to wait for 2 consecutive blue or red bars before you identify a change in trend. So I'm going to try to put together some strategies based on that idea so that you have tighter stops. One thing about the range bands is that the bands are relatively far apart, as I pointed out in the video, and the stops are very far away, which can be costly. So when I look at systems where I look at 2 consecutive bars, where I place the stop below the low of the first of the 2 bars, so stops will be fairly close in that scenario. Okay, and finally for the fib lines, I'm looking at automatic fib level calculation. Right now it's a manual process, and I develop a way to algorithmically measure how good a given FibLines interpretation is for a given chart, and you can see my video measuring FibLines effectiveness for that. And I'm thinking of combining that together with an algorithmic method of identifying potential Elliott wave 1 lows and highs, and then taking the FibLines that result from that, calculating the effectiveness, and then using that as a machine learning type of method where it goes back for a given chart and tries various interpretations until it finds the one that matches the chart the best. So that's going to be an ambitious project, but I'm up to the challenge, and let's look for that in the future. So in the meantime, how to get my stuff. So I've made a couple changes here recently. If you go to my website and you go to the store button, you'll come to the FibTool Sell Store. And I've removed all the TradeStation products from here. So the Thinkorswim, we have a free version of the FibLines indicator for Thinkorswim that includes just the SPY, DIA, QQQ, ES, NQ, and TF, the continuous contract futures equivalents. So that's a freebie you can get from the store. And I also have a free version of range bands for Thinkorswim available up there, as well as the full version of FibLines for $99, and that includes 1 year of updates. And this is the quarterly update for June of 2016. And for TradeStation, all the products are now in the TradeStation Trading App Store. And if we search for, if you go click on my range bands, and you click on TCX Systems LLC, you can see my FibLines indicator is up there as well. And I've added a trial, a $9 trial for 10 days. So If you want to try out the FibLines for a TradeStation or TradeStation user, you can do that for 10 days for free. Please give that a try, see if you like it. And I've updated my quarterly updates to that, and you can see some screenshots of how the indicator has worked here. And let's just show you what some of those look like. Here is LLTC, Linear Tech, and here is Microsoft. And these are symbols I thought looked pretty good, as well as the Procter & Gamble P&G. Okay, so yeah, so the FibLines are available now as a free trial for TradeStation users on the Trading App Store for 10 days. After that's $9 a month. I should mention that's a pretty reasonable price considering my competition indicator called Voodoo Lines. My competition FibLines is an indicator called Voodoo Lines, and the guy charges $997 for the indicator, plus $47 a month. I'll give it to you for $9 a month in the TradeStation environment, and $99 a year, which includes 4 quarterly updates for TradeStation users. So that's it. I appreciate you watching the video. You know, I'm not making a ton of money off this stuff. I'm really just here to because I enjoy doing it, and so I hope I can provide you with some helpful stuff. And if you have any questions, you can email me at support@fibtools.com. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.